financial results of the organisation. On the chart you see the last 5 years plus the interim results that we released to the end of December 2011. You'll see an increase in revenue over the preceding periods up until June 2009, and then a pullback for 10 and 11. The reason for that is that we had a dispute with government on a large contract that contributed some 500 million rand to our revenue. It was a contract for the Department of Home Affairs called Who Am I Online. That has subsequently been resolved, and we are back on the project and back delivering to the department. It, however, did have a big impact on our revenue line, losing out on some 500 million, and there was a commensurate bottom line impact in terms of the settlement, which you'll see on the next slide. The important thing to note is that with the pullback in the revenue due to the loss of this large contract, things are now starting to pick up again. And if you look at the dark blue portion at the bottom, which is our H1 revenues for each of the 6 periods, you'll see that revenue is starting to tick up again. And for the first half of this year, we grew revenues by some 7.5%. If we look at the EBITDA, being the earnings before interest, tax and non-cash items, you'll see a similar trend where we had the earnings increasing over a period of time, and then a significant reversal in June 11, which was this once-off impact of 374 million rand. It was a once-off settlement charge that we agreed to with government in order to settle on the legacy of Who Am I Online, and that has paved the way for us to get back into the project, to go back into delivering, and that is what we're busy with now. We're looking at completing the project and implementing the system that will radically change how we interact with Home Affairs. The bottom line, if you look at the earnings for the first half, you'll see they are significantly better than what we achieved last year, excluding the Who Am I project, and the business is back on track. To take a closer look at the 6-month period, I mentioned before that we grew on a like-for-like basis 7.5% at the top line and improved EBITDA by 83.5%. The third bullet point there, I do suggest that at a margin of 5.8%, although it's a huge improvement on where we were before, it's not quite where we see ourselves as an organisation, and it's part of the turnaround that we've been going through, and we expect to get to a better margin percentage than that. We've had a reduction in financial expenses due to reduced borrowing costs, and a significant increase in cash balances, which is an important achievement after the large write-offs that we had last year. We focused on improving cash balances, and to the extent that we grew net cash balances to 199 million from 86 million the period before. We've also kept a close eye on our gearing ratio. With a significant write-off last year, we wrote off almost half of our shareholder funds, which put our gearing ratio a little bit out of whack. That is now back to just over 100%. It's at 1.01 times. We'd like to see that reduce a little bit less, but it's getting back to more manageable sort of levels. On the reverse, the gross debts to rolling 12-month EBITDA is at 1.54 times, which is not uncomfortable for a company in our sort of industry. We're pleased to say that we do have a return on equity of 30%, which is reasonably significant, but that dividends will be suspended for the time being, and we'll review as the cash generation continues in the business from year end. Then just to give a bit of a flavour on the contributors to our revenue and our profitability, the managed services division over the last, and these are 6-month reporting periods that we put up on the graph, managed services has grown from sort of 700 to the 800 million. It's pulled back slightly in terms of its revenue contribution. Professional services, you'll see a huge decline from the 700 million odd range down to 400 million, and that was that large Who Am I project that came out of our revenues. Since we had that settlement, though, you'll see that we've grown other business in that division, to the extent that we've grown revenues by some 110 million in the last 2 6-month reporting periods. So we've seen significant growth in professional services. On the profit side, the managed services profitability was increasing very nicely over the periods. It did pull back, and that's an impact of the top line pullback that we saw in the first half of this year, and that has resulted in a bottom line pullback. On the professional services side, You will have seen the big decline when we did the settlement in December 2010, that 6-month period, but that's now starting to improve. And the margins, achieving 36 million rand of profit on 558 million of revenue, is a much more significant margin than what you see in managed services, 41 million on 793, and hence our stated goal of increasing that. If we then look at the contributions per sector, I did take you through some of the key clients in each of those industries. You'll see that the public sector dropped off quite significantly after the loss of the HUMA revenue, and we've kind of stabilized at around about 35% public sector contribution to revenue, and the other percentages are as you see there. What's significant to understand, I mentioned earlier that this is a services business. We don't rely much on sale of third-party product, be it hardware or software, and you can see there that product has always hovered around 15-16% of our revenue, not much more. We are a significant services player and less so a third-party product seller. The last point to make is that we said that we're looking to grow the higher order professional services revenues, and you can see how after the large contract write-off that every 6 months the professional services contribution to revenue has been growing by 2% per 6 months, which will obviously place us in a better position, greater differentiation within the business, and less commoditized services, which typically we'll find in the managed services division.